At the Kettleman City Supercharger, someone got to take a look at one of the prototype testing refreshed Model S's from 2021. We're seeing a lot of them on the back of semi-trucks. It appears that deliveries could start at any moment, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised that we're over 3 weeks into March yet and deliveries haven't officially begun. Maybe Tesla just wants to make sure all the panel gaps are gone and non-existent, but I felt a little bit weird on reporting about this leak because someone finally got to sit inside of one and play around with the user interface, which we haven't seen before, because apparently the guy asked the Tesla employee at the charger if it was okay for him to go take a look at it, and he said yes, as long as you don't take pictures and videos. And I just want to send a warning out there, as exciting as this information is, you can probably get those employees in a lot of trouble, and he was probably not supposed to be allowing random people to get into the car anyway. So both parties are at fault here, but still, this guy was assuming that people were gonna be good-natured and respect his wishes by not taking pictures and videos, and yet that's exactly what he did. The clicks and fame, it's not worth it, okay? If a guy says don't take pictures, you probably should just enjoy it. But hey, you could go write about it afterwards and kind of draw it on a napkin if you feel like it. But anyway, we finally got our first look on what the updated user interface should look like, and I can see why some people don't like it. I mean, it does have a lot of blank space, a lot of padding, but personally, as kind of a Tesla fanboy in this situation, I must say I love the design. I think that there's a very delicate balance when you're interacting with a 17-inch landscape display between overwhelming the user with too many buttons and too much information and showing them exactly what is absolutely necessary and not overbearing the screen. And I think that Tesla, even though this software is probably beta and it's very possible it's not finalized yet and it could change a lot by the time deliveries actually begin, even for a beta, I find this pretty impressive. For one, because you've got all of your quick actions you need between opening the frunk, opening the trunk, putting the car in neutral is just one little button now, which is probably a lot easier for people. And apparently from talking to some of the Tesla employees at this Kettleman Supercharger, we can now see in the user interface that the smart gear selector is optional. So we've talked about this before. Elon's very proud of it. Apparently the autopilot cameras on the vehicle will be able to analyze its surrounding and automatically detect whether or not you want to go backwards or forwards. Whenever people first hear about that, they always are instantly turned off and say, ooh, that sounds terrible, sounds like a bad idea, it's always going to go the wrong direction. But honestly, vast majority of situations I've found myself in, I'm typically in a place where the car, if it had cameras, should be able to detect which direction it needs to go. Usually I'm backing out of my garage and there's a big wall in front of the car, so it doesn't need to be put in drive for that. Or I'm in a parking space where there's stuff in front of me. So I personally want to try this myself before I reach a judgment on it, but just from looking around my personal surroundings, I feel like it won't be that complicated. And in the situations where you want to override the smart gear selector, you'll be able to just touch on the display whether or not you want to go forwards and backwards. And also an idea that was pitched both on the Tailosive EV podcast and around the internet actually sounds like it's coming true, because as you can see in the software, the gear selector thing is optional, which means if you turn it off, you'll be able to actually change directions based on the right little scroll wheel, which currently on Teslas, when you hold down that right scroll wheel, it activates voice commands like dictation. But now there's a little capacitive microphone button that replaces that, which means the ability to press and hold down that little right scroll wheel opens up the potential of alternating between reverse and drive. So in my opinion, just holding down the scroll wheel instead of reaching behind the steering wheel and pushing the gear stalk down, not really that different. So if you want a manual override, I would say that's pretty much the closest you're gonna get. And I think with practice, this could become second nature. In fact, in time, it'll probably become so natural that people have become comfortable with the car automatically changing directions. And I'm also very curious to see if Tesla can bring that to their other vehicles, even the ones with gear stocks. If someone wants the car to save them that step and just analyze their surroundings and say, hey, if there's something in front of you, I'm gonna put it in reverse. If there's something behind you, I'm gonna put it in forward. It's one of those things that I'm sure will take some getting used to, but in the end, people will start to become so comfortable with it that going back to having to always tell the car which direction you want to go will start to seem redundant and unnecessary. It's like, come on, this is the 21st century. The car should know which direction I'm gonna go, especially when Elon's vision of an autonomous driving future is all input is error. So if there's anything the driver has to do, that means there's a flaw in the system. I like that type of innovative thinking, but I'm also glad to see that this 17-inch landscape display should allow for some more customization with widgets. I don't know if these widgets can be moved around or adjusted, but because there's a driver display right behind the steering wheel, or yoke, depending on which which one you end up getting. There's some people saying that the yoke is going to be standard, some people saying the full steering wheel is going to be standard. It's still kind of up in the air right now, but that means that your speedometer and your full self-driving visualizations that are normally taking up the left third column on your Model 3s and Ys, now they don't have to worry about on that center display. It would just be redundant to have it there. So that means potentially you could have your media player where you can decide what podcasts or music you're listening to alongside your GPS and map navigations, which is really cool because right now in Teslas it's kind of the annoying process on that 15-inch display to have to choose between, okay, am I looking at my maps or am I looking at the media player? It's just got to pop up and then you select what you want and then it drops down again. Now it feels a bit more like those can be split screen and demonstrating information and content simultaneously. Although another option mentioned in this version 11 software beta leak is media on driving, which appears to allow you to either have the media always available whenever the car is in motion or always hide it when it's in motion, depending on what the driver prefers. But either way, options are good, and I'm happy to see that they're not just slightly tinkering the Model 3 and Model Y user interface for the Model S and X. I feel like if they're getting, still driver displays behind the steering wheel and that 17-inch landscape screen, they should get some software exclusives that justify some of that extra cost. I mean, there's already the extra range and performance and extra display in the back and all that, which sadly we did not get to see any of the UI for in this particular leak. But still, people are going to fall on either side of it. Reading a lot of comments online lately, I see a lot of people not in favor of it, but I think that there is always going to be some resistance to change, especially with vehicles, because people drive them so much and they use them for getting to work and back and getting groceries. It's something that they interact with a lot, and anytime there's some kind of software element change, people tend to freak out. They're like, oh no, I gotta relearn everything all over again. But as always, Tesla has a pretty consistent track record of figuring out, no, we have decided this is better, and you may not like it now, but why don't you try it for a little while and then try and see if you want to go back afterwards, because whether it be a display for everything or electric cars entirely, Tesla is used to seeing a lot of resistance and a lot of hate when they first unveil something, followed by mass market adoption and everyone going, oh, actually, I think this is better. And that's kind of how I feel about the user interface right now. It's different and it's not going to be exactly the same as what everybody's used to, but in time, it becomes the standard, people get comfortable with it, and then realize, oh, this was probably the way to go all along. So I hope that background wallpaper thing can be changed. I don't know how you could change it, but the idea of having like a desktop style operating system with vehicles as they're becoming more autonomous makes sense to me. So I hope that that's an optional thing you can change in the background, and I hope we get official deliveries any day now so that we can get more in depth and actually see what this UI looks like when the car is in motion, which I'm sure is going to be completely different from what it looks like when it's just in park. Let me know what you guys think of this version 11 leak for the Model S and X down below. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.